in today's video, I'm going to be showing you a Grinch spinner. So it's got a gorgeous red acrylic nail, red glitter. It's like my favorite acrylic I have. It's so pretty. And then there's a post coming out the tip of the nail, and you have a Grinch that spins from like the happy side after his heart grows 3 sizes to the mean side where he wants to steal everything. I love the contrast. I love that you can kind of customize it and spin it around. All of these things are just, they just make nail art so much more interesting and so much more fun, and it's like a little fidget spinner that you can play with on your finger. I hope you like it as much as I do, and don't forget to click subscribe to see all my future videos as well.
I'm going to start by placing the post in the nail with clear acrylic that is going to hold our spinner. So just make sure it's a reasonably strong piece of jewelry wire. And the reason I say jewelry wire is just because it is easily accessible and it is something that is made to be worn on a person. So it's not hopefully going to give anybody an allergic reaction if, say, it touches you, whereas some metals definitely can give allergic reactions. So after you have your post in place and it's going straight out of the nail, out of the tip of the nail, then encapsulate the post with some whatever kind of amazing glittery acrylic you want. I'm using this gorgeous red mix. I'm going to make sure that I don't see that post anymore, so it might have to be a little thicker of a glitter overlay than you normally would, especially towards the top of the post. But make sure that you do place that wire up far enough onto the nail that it's going to really hold on. If it's just like the very edge of the nail, it's not really going to be very durable. So make sure that it's covered, or it goes all the way up, at least about halfway. Now encapsulate the red glitter, because through glitter you cannot file or it's going to turn into a horrible scratchy mess. So go ahead and encapsulate it with a thin layer of clear acrylic. This is also the place where you get all of your strength. I am now going to carefully file this into shape for 2 reasons. 1, I'm going to be careful to not file through the clear into the glitter. And 2, I don't want to bump my wire because you can weaken it and kind of compromise the strength. So now that that's done, set this nail to the side and you can begin sculpting just a very generic base shape for a Grinch face. You've got the rounded top, start with a circle, then add essentially a heart so that the bump goes off to one side and the other and comes down to a point in the middle. So you've got a circle and you got a heart. Pretty easy so far. Pick it up, take it off the nail form backing, and attach a long bar bead to the back side of your Grinch face with more of this green acrylic. After you have the bar bead in place, then you're going to take still more green acrylic and you're going to cover it up so that you don't see it anymore, which is tricky because it's, pretty thick. It's got some, some bulk to it. So you're just gonna have to add lots of layers of the acrylic to it so that it doesn't look so out of place. I also would recommend, if you can, find a shade of a bead that isn't super obnoxious. So like, for instance, you wouldn't want purple inside your Grinch. I had one that's a gold. The gold I can cover pretty easily, but a color that's super dark or very contradictory to what we're doing would show much more. Orange would be bad. Red, you get the picture. Now I'm going to begin sculpting the facial features that are on top of this. So I'm going to begin with the little cheeks. I feel like that's a good starting point just to kind of base everything off of. I am starting with the happy side, so those are the happy cheeks. And I'm going to be adding those on each side. I'm going to work back and forth trying to be symmetrical. Then I'm going to add another bead of acrylic to start outlining where his mouth is and his smile is. If you do not want to sculpt nearly as much stuff with acrylic and you wanted to do things a little bit more with paint instead, you could choose which of these features you want to sculpt and which ones that you don't. So for instance, his mouth, that would definitely be a place where if you aren't as interested in sculpting so much, that you could just paint the smile on later. I'm going to add his lower lip as well, since I am all about the sculpting, but I just wanted to give you that option if you weren't so interested in all of the sculpting. And then I'm going to be doing his eyebrows. There are so many different facial features of the Grinch that you can just look at. You could do 2 evil ones and have completely different outcomes. You could do, 2 happy ones. You could do like a confused Grinch. There's so many different choices. So just go through, and the fun part about starting a design like this is looking at your reference photos. If you just Google Grinch face, you're going to find so many different choices. Once you have the majority of the facial features in place, I'm going to be sculpting the little tuft of hair that sticks out of the top of his head next to it on the nail form backing. The reason to have the nail close by is just as a sizing reference. Once that can be removed from the nail form backing, dip it into some nail glue and then place it on the top of his head, making sure that you do not clog the end of the bar bead that is embedded inside his head. So you just don't want to clog that. You want to make sure that that stays open and easy to access so that the wire can go easily through the Grinch head. I'm going to further secure the little hairs onto this with some more of my green acrylic on both the front and the back, and also some clear acrylic on the back, just so that it's really nice and strong. This little hairs part is where this nail is the most delicate, or where this nail is the most delicate, so you don't want to leave yourself open to breakage. And now flip that guy over. Everything on the one side should be hard. You should be able to click it. It should make a nice little click sound. Then when you roll it over to the other side, you can press that into your poster putty on your little nail holder, and you don't have to worry about it getting messed up, dented. And we can start sculpting the evil side, which, to be honest, is definitely the more fun side. I'm going to, again, start with those cheeks. This, as you can clearly see, they have a different shape even from this moment. Instead of being more like evenly tilted, they are tilted down and in. And then I'm going to add a little bit more height to the middle of his face between the cheeks, and adding the smile. It's very similar actually to sculpting a smile line on a nail for doing a French tip. You kind of leave that little edge, same process. I'm going to be adding his eyebrows, same thing, different angle. These ones are going to be downward pointed. So everything on this nail is like pulled down in the center. Eyebrows are pulled down, cheeks are pulled down. And then I'm going to give him some forehead wrinkles. He has more space on his forehead since he's got kind of like a scrunched up face, so his eyebrows don't take up as much room. So you can give him those marvelous forehead wrinkles. And then add the lip underneath, just like on the other side. Even the way his mouth is shaped has more of a point. It's all pointed down towards the bottom. And then add his little nose. And after you have this part done, you're going to have wanted to sculpt another pair or another little bit of that hair tuft. So you're going to attach that just like on the other side. I would have made them symmetrical so that you didn't see the hair from the other side coming through. It would have just been the one direction. However, the hair does not look right facing the other way. So you're going to do, that's going to be where the discrepancy is, where it's not just obviously one side or the other, where you can tell that there's two things happening here, but it's necessary for it to look correct. Add more green acrylic over the top of these hairs, just like you did on the other side, and add the clear acrylic behind for strength. It's a little more awkward on the second side just because you can't see it as easily. Now fit your little Grinchy onto the nail and then figure out how much you need to cut off of your wire. Hopefully it's too long so you have some space to cut off, or not too short. And then add a bead of the red acrylic, the red glitter acrylic, to the very end as a stopper. After that is cured and you can keep moving it, you can play with it, spin it, see how it works, and then add the details with acrylic paint. With a darker green acrylic paint, start by outlining all of the different facial features that you want to make sure are prominent. Basically everything you sculpted you're going to want to outline, but then there will be a few more details to add, like the line between his nose and his mouth. His eyes, outline those with the dark green paint. The dark green that you're using right now, think of it as like a sketch, because you're not going straight into black. You're just sort of finding these shapes slowly. Fill in his eyes on the happy side with white. And the great thing with finding them slowly this way is if one of your lines is wrong, you don't have to really worry about erasing it. It's green against green. Once everything else is on top of this, you will not see the wrong line. It'll just disappear. Any lines that you're happy with, that you really want to keep, those you intensify with black. So you don't really have to worry about those first lines. It makes this process much more relaxed, less intimidating, because if you make a mistake, it's just fine. You don't have to worry about it. And I love doing it that way with a shade of acrylic that's similar to the background color, because it just makes everything feel a little less, this is it, you know? I'm going to go through, like I said, with black acrylic, fix any of my outlines, add them where they need to be. I'm going to add his eyebrows. I'm going to outline his eyes with that black acrylic paint. And after I have all of those details outlined, and like with his eyes, if one of your black lines gets a little too thick or it goes over the white of the eye, as mine did, you can always go back and forth between your white and your black acrylic as many times as you need to fix up those lines. If you don't let the paint dry though, you are going to end up with gray. So, you know, don't rush the process either. I'm going to put the darker green over the entirety of his nose. And then with a brighter shade of green, I'm going to be adding some little highlights here and there. I'm going to highlight his cheeks, going to highlight the area like his upper lip with some of that brighter green, eyebrows, lip, bottom lip, just kind of brighten up some of the areas. Don't entirely paint over your Grinch with that shade of green, but just add the highlights where they need to be. Now that the whites of your eyes are dry, you can go through and add his pupils with black or blue. Blue actually would be a little bit more accurate, but a little less intense looking. So it's up to you. Add a little white highlight, then flip this guy around and repeat the process for the evil side. Again, the evil side's more fun, and I usually like to do things where I do like the fun part last. I like to save it for the end. So I'm going to go through at all of his outlines with the darker green. And the second time around, whenever you do anything, it's usually a little bit of a smoother process. So whichever side you find either to be the most fun or the more intimidating side, do second, because you'll have already practiced this once. Even though it's not identical, it's not the exact same face. Obviously, we've got a mean face and a happy face. The process is still the same. And so if one side seems to just be a little bit more intimidating for whatever reason for you, do that side second. I'm going to be adding all of my black details just like I did before. On this one, you're going to want to make his eyebrows look a little bit more fluffy. On the happy side, I just did more of a smooth line. This side, he just has a little bit more of a rough and tumble personality. So we're going to do all of those lines, outline his eyes, outline his smile, nose, the line between his nose and his lip. The little forehead wrinkles, you can give those a small outline as well if you want. On this one, I'm going to outline the tops of his cheeks, not just the underside. Fill in his eyes on this side with yellow. So the happy side gets white and then possibly blue or black for the eyes. And on the mean side, it gets yellow and then black or red. So you can, make some other decisions there. Fill in those eyes with a nice bright golden shade of yellow. And same thing, after you have all of this done to this point, go ahead and add some highlights to him with this brighter shade of green. If you do like this mix of Grinchy personalities, I did paint them on my nails recently too, and that video is uploaded. I will put a link to that video as well as all of my past Grinch themed videos in the description box below because there are a lot of them. This is already the third one just this year. So there are so many, and if you want to just work your way through them, there are some really cool concepts and really extreme Grinch stuff happening. I'm going to be adding his pupils, and then I'm going to apply some matte top coat over my Grinch. This is not gel, it's just traditional lacquer. And now to finish off this nail, because it is Grinch but it's glamorous because it's got the glitter, we're going to be adding some crystals and rhinestones up above. I place down my jewelry gel and then apply a layer of matte top coat over the top of the jewelry gel and the nail. Before you cure, grab your crystals and start placing them into the nail. This part is just like the icing on the cake. If you aren't a crystal person and you don't like this part, certainly skip it. You could do something else on top of the nail just to make it a little bit more interesting than a solid color. You could maybe add some candy cane stripes or possibly a little snowflake, whatever you think. Otherwise, it could definitely just be the red glitter too. But I'm going to place in a mix of greens and then a couple silver. I just went through and I found any kind of green rhinestone or crystal that I had and I set them all out and then I proceeded from there. The last ones I'm going to put in are just kind of a AB crystal, really pretty. And I'm also going to add in some caviar beads. For caviar bead color, I would either go with gold. Silver would be okay, but I feel like for the Grinch, gold just seems more appropriate. I think because of his yellow eyes. It is, up to you. Otherwise, I do actually have some green caviar beads, but I figured the contrast, so not using green again, was probably a better choice. But if you have a multicolored caviar bead mix, green would also be an option. After that's cured, it's all done. This guy is so fun. Like I said, I love having to have a little play element on my nails. In this case, it happens to be a Grinch spinner. I am so in love with this. I hope you guys like this nail as much as I do. And like I said, check my description box for all the past Grinch videos. I have a Grinchy family, so Grinch is always something that's on my mind this time of year. I hope you guys like this one as much as I do, and I will see you all next time. Bye.